Welcome into Auburn ADDICTS-TV, and welcome to another episode of The Come Up. I got Auburn royalty in here today. Talk a little Auburn success story. I got my man from Crain Company YouTube, Crain Company X, writes for the Daily Wire, Crain Company Daily Wire Plus, Instagram, TikTok. Man, this man is everywhere. Got to know his story. Got a special name for this man too. Sitting around the barn yet, everybody? Guess what his name is? The Auburn Cheat Code, aka the Auburn Prince, baby. All right, Jake. Come on in here, man. Talk to me, Jake.
What's up, man? First off, I appreciate you having me. Love what you're doing. And yeah, man, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm born and raised in Auburn, Lee County, Alabama. Father obviously played there. That's home. It's in my blood, man. And we cover a lot of stuff. We cover the whole landscape, but I always say if you're not a fan of somebody, I feel like you should be federally investigated. And there's no running who I'm a fan of, and I love that, man. I wear it with pride. Like I said, Auburn's in my blood, man. If we had a family shield, it'd have a tiger and eagle on there somewhere.
Yeah, that's what's up, man. I appreciate you coming on sincerely. Appreciate you giving us some of your time, man. Jake, I want to know the story, man. We're gonna get to some football. We're gonna talk to some Auburn football. We're gonna talk some Hugh Freeze. I want to know the story, man. How did Jake Crain become who he is now? From where you was as a kid now to having 100 and some thousand followers on YouTube, man. I want to know the story, Jake. Don't cheat me. I want to know every detail, man. Talk to me. Cook, man. Come on.
No, well, like, first off, I still think I'm in a coma, man. I think I'm out recruiting and got hit by a semi, and I'm still in a coma somewhere in Montana. But it's wild. It's it's a combination of a lot of things. Luck. Obviously, you got to catch breaks, timing, and I'd like to say talent. I always say I only know 4 things, and they all start with F. So I guess this falls in line with that. Okay. It's again, my father. I'm sure a lot of people out there probably know who he was. He's All-American linebacker at Auburn. In 86, 87, coached there. There's some great years under Terry Bowden. Got out of coaching when I was young, and we lived in Auburn basically my whole life up until I went to college, and then he got back into coaching. I went to Yarborough Elementary. I went to Wrightsmill Road. I went to Ogletree. It's funny. We moved 11 times within the city of Auburn. My dad used to say, when he knew where the silverware drawer was, it was time to move. And shoot, now owning a house and having a family of my own, that's crazy. That man was insane. But no, man, I ended up going to South Alabama to play ball, and got done playing there, and started out, basically just as lowest on the totem pole you can go, student assistant, worked my way up to GA. You got to go off and kind of cut your teeth at other places before you go back to Division I. So I went and did the JUCO thing for a little bit. Ended up going back to South Alabama, was basically the special teams coordinator there under Joey Jones. Branched out from there, ended up in Montana coaching in college, and was actually interviewing for the DC job. And COVID hit. And so nobody knew what was going on. So they were basically like, look, we're shutting the school down. And most of the players from up there, in Montana, places like that, they're from the state, right? There's not a lot of out-of-state guys, whether it's Montana, whether it's Montana State. You kind of look around the whole state. So they didn't have far to go. But, when they told the coaches we had to go, I went back to see some of my family. You don't get a lot of time off once you get to that level of coaching. And, man, I was just bored. Nobody knew when we were going back. Our head coach would call us, once or twice a week, just to kind of give us an update. Nobody really knew anything. And so I was like, man, I might as well try and waste some time, and bought a $50 microphone off Sweetwater. And I really started just talking Auburn, man. Like just talking what I thought about, where the football program was, and not saying anything too crazy, just because, I'm still coaching, and the coaching world's actually real small. And I didn't know like what was good. Like I would look, I'd see, man, Joe Rogan got, 700,000 views. I guess that's good. So I found a way to get it on Apple and Spotify, just audio. Okay. And, I'd look and it was like, all right, it got, 10,000 listens. And I'm like, man, that sucks. In like 2 days. I'm like, that's nothing compared to, because I didn't know. I had no idea, what was good. So anyway, I'm doing it like just for fun. And then on social media, people started hitting me up like, hey man, I'm listening to this. It's good. You need to keep doing it. And so I did a couple more. And then all of a sudden I get a call from this California number. I was literally in my aunt's driveway and I was thinking maybe it was a recruit. So I answer it, and it's basically this guy from this company called the Investor Brand Network out in California. And he's, like, hey, is this Jake Crain? Because I just named it the JBoy Show because in college they just called me JBoy. So I, again, nothing was too serious. So he's like, hey man, just listen to your show. We really like it. Do you have like a sponsor yet or somebody to help you out, like creating a logo or any of this stuff? And I'm like, I told him, I was like, man, like I'm a football coach. Like I'm just doing this for fun. And he's like, I don't know if you realize this, but you got like the number 4 sports show on Apple Podcasts right now. And I was like, what? Because I just stopped looking at like the downloads and stuff. And so I thought somebody was playing a prank on me. So I was like, well, you got to send me proof. So he sent me the charts and it was there. And so that's when it first kind of ticked in the back of my mind. I was like, man, maybe this is something I could do. Maybe it could be very like, beneficial financially. And, growing up with a coach in your family, I didn't really get to see my dad a whole lot when I was younger until he got out of it. And so, man, I do a couple more and it starts like kind of going gangbusters because, I mean, I feel like, and I don't mean to disrespect anybody, but I feel like a lot of people that are connected to Auburn in the media, they rely so much on the coaches for access and stuff like that, that they can't say anything not bad or like just critiquing, right? Or they're going to make the coaches look bad. And then the coach is going to stop talking to you. Like, first off, I know all the guys. So, they know that I don't dislike them or whatever, but I'm not beholden to Auburn. Like, they haven't sent me a check yet. They still haven't. So that was during the Gus Malzahn, situation and his exit. So, man, I get a call trying to make a, long story short, I get a call a couple of weeks after that. Still don't know when we're going back to Montana from a guy named Vince Thompson, who's like, hey, man, I'm a promoter. I do like the, Aflac and Coca-Cola and the Final Four and all this stuff. I want you to come meet me in Atlanta. So I go up there and meet him. He's like, we want to put you on video. We want to turn this in. We think this could be a huge show. So I end up deciding to go up there and move to Marietta and take a chance on this thing. Yeah, because, dude, I'm sitting here selling. Like, people started hitting me up about sponsorships, and I don't know how much to charge for a 30-second ad read. So I'm like, I'll do 10 a month for $2,500. And they're like, yes. Okay. So I'm like, what? I'm like, wait, I'm like, that's like cool. Like, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, dude, I can make more doing this in the first 3 months than I would for a while in coaching. So I go up there. We start an LLC with the JBoy Show, put it on video. Hugh Freeze, when he was at Liberty, because he's a friend of mine, was the first guy I ever did a video show with. And then so fast forward 2 months after that, the numbers are going through the roof. Again, I'm just doing my thing though. Like, I'm letting them look at all the numbers. I'm just doing my thing. And so then we get an email from Colin Cowherd's people that are like, hey man, we're starting this Volume podcast network. Like, Draymond Green's going to be on there. Like, Colin's going to have a show on there. All these people are going to be on there. Would you like to be our college football show? So, man, I'm like, hell yeah. Like, what? Like, yeah, of course. So they're like, we'll let you keep your own IP, which is huge. We'll pay you this monthly. We'll do a 6-month deal, see how it goes. And then we want to fly y'all out here and you meet Colin. So I fly out to meet Colin Cowherd, who's awesome, by the way. Like, this is all surreal to me, man. Crazy, man. Like, I always tell you, I didn't know where I was out in California until I walked behind the hotel and realized how many times I'd run people over on that beach in Grand Theft Auto. I knew exactly where I was. So we go meet with Colin Cowherd. He's awesome. And they tell me halfway through the dinner, by the way, we want you to do another show with Bryce Young. So I'm like, what? Like for real? So they're like, yeah. So we're all excited. We go to the College Football Hall of Fame to do the show now. My brother hops on there to monitor the chat. David Cohn, former Michigan quarterback's on there with me. And we do the 6 months, and we just absolutely blow it out of the water. I mean, we almost caught Colin Cowherd. We almost had as many views and downloads as his show. So they're like, we want to renegotiate for like a long deal. Like, we want to do like a long deal. And so obviously we're like, all right, well, if we're going to do that, we need to get paid more. And they're like, all right, so we're working on it. in the middle of negotiating, and then all of a sudden on Twitter, I get a DM from Ben Shapiro. And like I knew who Ben Shapiro was, but like I don't really get political. Like that's not my thing. Right. So he's like, "Hey man, I'm listening to your show. You know, I want to talk to you." So I'm like, "All right." I mean, he's got the #1 podcast in the world. I might as well talk to the guy. So he calls me, and you know, I'm free because we're renegotiating the other contract. I talked with him. The numbers are good. And I told him, I was like, look, you know, we want to do a sports show, but we don't want it to be political. Like, I'm not trying to be Clay Travis. I'm not trying to be, you know, any of these other guys. I just want to talk sports. And they're like, that's fine. So, man, we've been up here. We're on year 3. And we got almost 150,000 subs on YouTube. We're one of the most popular sports shows. And we cover everything, but football is really our bread and butter. And it's still basically the same show as the JBoy show. We just got nicer stuff. Like that's the way that I tell them we talk more than just college football, but I mean, we talk mostly football, mostly NFL, mostly college. And it's wild. I live up here in Nashville, Tennessee. I got married. I got a baby girl on the way in January. And it's just, man, I'm just very blessed. And, you know, I never forget where I come from. I try and go on as many shows as possible. And I'm always talking Auburn. We got a ton of Auburn people that come on the show. And, man, it's amazing. And our numbers have never been better. And I'm just, we got to do a movie, you know, we were in Lady Ballers, which was super successful. And, it's just wild, man. It's just a dream come true. Honestly, I can't believe it. That's why I think I'm in a coma.
Okay. And you're saying this started in 2020?
Yeah.
Like COVID, like a 4-year period. I mean,
yeah, I'm only 4 years into this thing. I always tell people that. It's funny. Like a lot of people don't realize, and it's, you know, I've only been doing sports media for almost 4 years now. Like, and it all happened so fast. But I mean, DC, like when you watch our show, again, if somebody was a baker their whole life and they did a podcast about baking, it would probably be pretty good because that's what they know. Like, that's what I was raised in. Like, my father used to sit us down. Like, we would watch games, especially when he got out of coaching. And we would sit there and he would explain everything that was going on. He would call out the personnel before every play, right? All right, it's 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends. All right, it's 10 personnel, 1 running back, no tight ends. This is what they're doing. This is what this play is called. This is why they did it. And that's kind of like, that was our bonding thing. So that was sports in general, but football always was like the thing that brought us together. So when people watch our show, and the hardest part is not getting too technical, right? Because my brother played with Austin Eckler at Western Colorado, and he went through the same upbringing I did. David Cohn, our other co-host, not the pitcher, but he played quarterback at Michigan. So, you know, we can speak the language because that's what we did. And so when people listen to our show, that's why our slogan's win the water cooler. Like we get down into the nitty gritty, but not to the point where it's like we're speaking Japanese to each other. Cause you can get into it. I mean, Cohn we do a segment during the season called Huddle Up where we'll break down a play schematically, and Cohn will do it, and he'll use, you know, his terminology he learned at Michigan. And it's like speaking a different language. But what we want our show to be is, number one, if you love football and you want to learn more about football, I always say I don't have all the answers. I just have more of them than a decent amount of people. But we want to have the most educated audience of anybody, so that when you get in that argument at work, or you get in that argument at Thanksgiving, or with your buddy over the phone, you can just absolutely dominate the argument. And you watch the game a different way. You know, I always tell people, you really want to know what's going on? Don't watch the ball. Watch the line of scrimmage, because and most people don't want to do that because you're trained to watch the ball and that's where all the action happens. But when you coach or you've been a part of it, like a lot of watching film, it's like Devontae Adams in that receiver documentary on Netflix right now. He's like, my wife always gets mad at me because I always rewind the play before the ball's even thrown. Well, that's where like all the action happens. So that's what we want. And we made a lot of money gambling. We've made a lot of money betting on college football too. So that helps. Our bet sponsor loves it. And I think hates it sometimes because, you know, our audience wins. But yeah, man, we're football junkies. We're sports junkies. And we just use common sense. Like, I don't care we're at the Daily Wire, but I tell you, like, I don't care who you voted for. Like, I don't care what your stance is on immigration. I want to know what you think about, you know, Miami's 3rd down play calling against Florida. That's the stuff at the end of the day. That's my forte.
Yeah. I got you, man. That's awesome, man. I remember when I was driving, man, and this was before I was into YouTube and on social media and stuff like that. So I was driving big rigs, man. And I used to listen to Feinbaum and listen to the radio. And I would hear, man, have you guys heard of this guy, JBoy, man? He's just blowing up, man. I'm like, who is JBoy? I'm like, who is that, man? But that was pretty cool. It's pretty cool, man. Full circle. I'm on with JBoy, man.
No, it's legitimately wild. Like, and people who just like found out about us like the last couple years, like don't really know like the origin story of how it happened, man. It truly is like the American dream. I tell people all the time, it's just I love doing what I do. I love being able to talk about sports in general, but football, and bring common sense to it as well. But like, man, it all happens so fast, DC, and it's like still getting bigger. That's the thing. Like, if it had plateaued, and we're not even at a sports network, like it'd be like watching ESPN and thinking you're gonna see like a home improvement show on there. Like, but still, it's just it's amazing, man. And just like anything, the more you do it, the better you get at it. Like the chemistry, like, and those are my boys too. Obviously, that's my brother, you know, so we have a good time. But then David Cohn's like another brother to me. So it's really like, I always tell people, I want it to feel like when you're listening or watching our show, that you just happen to be friends with the coaches of your favorite team, and they let you come into the field house and BS with them, but really talk about real stuff too. Like, because Feinbaum, and then that stuff's great. Like, there's a bunch of great sports media guys out there, but I think what makes, you know, the Tony Romo's good, and like what makes, you know, like the David Pollock's good and the Kirk Herbstreit's good is that, yeah, I can give you the surface level stuff. We can dive deeper, and I can tell you things that I see that maybe, you know, the fan who didn't do it for a living doesn't see. And I feel like that brings you closer to your team and closer to the game. So I love the game. The game has done so much for me, coaching, playing, now doing this, that I want everybody to enjoy it as much as I do. And I think that kind of shines too. And look, I'll
man,
you know, I'll tell you straight up, like, that's the thing. Like, if I think of Auburn, and people get mad sometimes, and that's okay. Like, if I want to make people happy for a living, I would sell ice cream and puppies and cupcakes. But no, I'm going to tell you, if I think Auburn's doing good, I think they're doing good. If I think they're doing bad, I think they're doing bad. I just think that consistency, people, they may not love to hear the bad stuff, but they respect that, you know, I'm not just there's not just sunshine and rainbows just popping out of everything I say, because that's not the way it really is.
And man, I loved it. I loved it when you came out about basketball, man. Two questions. Did you and Bruce Pearl, have you guys made up yet? And then have you and Charlie Five made up? But go ahead.
Well, here's what I'll say. Like, really, because what I said, and I don't want people to think I was just talking about basketball. Look, the point that I remember when even making the NIT was amazing. As crazy as that sounds to Auburn fans that are younger. Like, I remember watching Rob Chubb and them run up and down the court. All right. So the fact that the standard has been raised to where we don't expect to make NCAA tournaments, we expect to make it and make runs in NCAA tournaments. That's an incredible accomplishment, but that is the standard now. Right. And you look at what it's done to Alabama, and you look at the SEC in general. But my whole point about that was, and it wasn't just football, it's baseball. Or excuse me, it wasn't just about basketball. It's baseball, and it's a little bit of football, but Hugh needs time. It's not fair after 1 year with what he's going up against and what he inherited. It's that my point was the Auburn fans always show up. Good, bad, indifferent, win, loss, underdog, favorite. They always show up. We always talk about Auburn's atmospheres are the best, right? You look in college basketball. You look at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Right. And I was watching Carson Beck and them. He's telling Jackson Howard, like, I hope you understand what you're going into on week 5. So my whole point was, like, at some point, we got to stop choking in the big moments. Like, not that you're going to win every game. Sometimes you're going to get bounced early from the NCAA tournament. But we haven't made it past the second round in like 5 years. Like, at some point, the fans, they're going to keep showing up regardless. But you need to feed them something good. So you mix in getting bounced out by Yale. And I know we won the conference basketball tournament, and that's great, but we all know what the NCAA tournament is. Like, we 4th and goal from the 31 against Bama in football. Baseball, what happened in the regionals when you got to host last year, getting absolutely clowned early, 2 and out of your own regional. You know, basketball, losing to Yale. Like, and look, I mean, again, if this was a spelling bee or some geopolitical conversation, all right, we're probably not winning that one. But this is basketball. All I heard about was how much depth we had. Then one guy goes out and we act like we can't beat Yale. So my whole point was, I love Bruce Pearl. Bruce Pearl should get a lifetime contract. And they weren't happy. Stephen Pearl wasn't happy with me. But guess what? My job is not to tell everybody just good things all the time. That is not my job. And I take my job seriously. Just like their job is to win basketball games. And I understand them being upset with me because I got a decent sized following. But the reason I have that following and that I haven't fallen in line with everybody else is because I'm willing to sit here and say what I think. Not just grasp at straws to try and create clicks. But if you go back and watch what I said, tell me what isn't true. Tell me one thing I said that isn't true or that Auburn fans really don't feel. So at the end of the day, to me, Auburn is bigger than one coach. Auburn is bigger than my relationship with a coach. Auburn is Auburn, and that should always be the most important thing. It is bigger than everybody else, and I feel like I'd be doing Auburn a disservice if I sat here and just said, guys, don't worry about it. It's okay. You know, I'm not okay and you're not okay, but that's okay. No, man, that's not how I think. That's not what I want to say. And again, you know, like Drake said, man, only the real stuff's going to last. All that BS is here today and gone tomorrow, man.
No, I agree, man. And I appreciate it, man. You can have expectation without being critical. Like it's like, seems like sometimes in the Auburn family, if you just, and I'm not saying being a Debbie Downer or those type of things. I'm saying, man, every life has expectations. And when you don't reach expectations, sometimes you have disappointment, man. And it's okay to express your disappointment sometimes. Sometimes with the Auburn family, man, it's like some things are unrealistic, man. Let's just sunshine pump and not say anything negative. You know what I'm saying? But I appreciated everything you said.
Well, here's my thing, DC. I'm going to tell you what I really think. You can agree with it. You can disagree with it. And I don't want everybody to agree with everything I say. That would be so boring. Yes. That would be the most boring show ever. So it's not that, oh, I'm always going to say good things or, oh, I'm always going to say bad things. I'm going to tell you what I really think. And if you disagree with it, I think dissent moves us forward. I think disagreeing is fantastic. I think it makes everybody better when it's genuine. Absolutely. Just be genuine. So, and I'll tell you something else, man, like when the show started getting big and stuff like that, I caught a lot of hate from people that have known me, I'm talking about in the sports media, in that Auburn sphere, that have known me since I was a little boy, that I had not said one bad thing about. When I started predicting where the recruits were going to go, because I knew the coaches and then I knew the recruits because I had just coached. Like I had talked to these same kids. So I would be able to find out like, hey, this guy's going here and this guy's going there. And I started being able to kind of publicly say that. And then I was able to tell people Auburn was going to run a flea flicker on the first play of the game one time because the coaches told me that. And then it happened. So again, I get it. I know how human beings work. And I don't think I'm better than anybody. That's why like that whole debate with Charlie 5 was just wild to me because number one, I don't know the guy like that much, but I mean, I've got no reason not to like him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So when I said, you know, I was talking schematically about what Auburn did against Brock Bowers in the second half of the Georgia game last year, and he questioned something I said schematically, and then I asked him what he would do, and he couldn't answer because he doesn't really know how the stuff works, right? You know, service level stuff. And again, it's not his fault. I don't expect everybody to know that. So then I'm like, hey, man, we can go on Zach Blackerby's show on Locked In and we can debate it if you want. And he said, okay. And nobody will ever debate me on scheme stuff. So I was like, this is great. Like, this is my favorite thing to talk about. Because like I said, it's one of the few things I'm smart enough to know. So I go on there and I'm thinking we're going to have this debate about scheme. But where I was dumb was I should have realized that he was going to try and make it something that wasn't schematical because you know, it'd be like trying to get in an argument in Japanese, but you don't know how to speak Japanese. So you try and figure out another way to do it. So then he starts like questioning, you know, like my coaching past, like, and I'm like, okay, well, you know, where have you coached? Like, what do you know, whatever. And I'm just defending myself. And then he starts saying wild stuff about like trying to chip with the safety at the line, like stuff that just makes no sense because it's not real stuff. And I was just defending myself, and some people liked it, some people didn't. But look, at the end of the day, I'm Kurt Crane's son. I'm gonna defend myself, man. Especially if I realize you have no idea what you're really talking about. And it takes about 5 minutes to figure that out. But he's a good guy. We were cool right after the debate. That was the funniest part. Was people were like, "Oh, they must hate each other."
Yeah.
Like, no, not really, man. Like, I really don't know the guy enough to hate him. It just, I don't know. That was interesting. But it wasn't fun because we couldn't actually talk about schematically what happened. Like, and that's what people want to hear, not, your credentials and my credentials and all this other stuff. It just, it could have been a lot better. But no, I don't harbor any hate, man.
So you guys okay? I just wanted to make sure you guys okay,
yeah, I'm fine, man. Paycheck's still coming in, so I'm good.
Okay, that's what's since we're cooking, man. Do you think let's get to some football and let's, I guess, get us both frowned upon. Anyway, last year, answer this. Last year with the defense and the run game, what did you see from the defense, man? Why were they so porous at the run game? Was it scheme? Was it personnel? Was it both? I mean, what was it?
Look, I said this last year, and there were times where I was critical of Ron Roberts. I think Ron Roberts and that defensive staff did a pretty good job with the cards that they were dealt. I mean, remember, we didn't know that Asante was going to be that. There were some guys that kind of came out of nowhere, and not saying that Auburn had bad players across the board, but you can be the greatest coach of all time. I use Bobby Petrino right now at Arkansas for an example. Formational standpoint, motion standpoint, calling plays to set up for other plays, understanding how to get guys open, understanding how to attack the outside, the seam, formation in the boundary, all that stuff. He's incredible. But if you don't have the players, it doesn't matter. I've seen a lot of coaches who are geniuses look like idiots because your players weren't good enough. And I've seen a lot of really bad coaches, you know what I'm saying, look smart because their players were just better. So a lot of it last year, and I think the defense really did overachieve, but it was personnel-wise and depth. Because you don't win games with your first 22 guys. You win games with your first 66 on the roster because football's a battle of attrition and you can't play every snap. Auburn had to find a way to try and somehow keep a lot of average players fresh to be able to play in the fourth quarter when you have below average players or unproven players behind them. That is a near impossible task. And then you add in the point that you're playing in the Southeastern Conference. Like, if you go back and really look at Auburn's personnel on defense, outside of the secondary, which I would much rather be really good in the front and average in the back end than really good in the back end and average in the front. Because I can't hide the defensive line with good DBs. You can't cover people that long. I thought they did a pretty good job. That's why I was so excited about seeing what they did in the transfer portal and some of these younger guys getting older, because now if you're Auburn, you're way deeper, or at least way deeper than you were last year, and guys can empty the tank more because they trust guys behind them. Now that if a guy goes down, you're not dead in the water out there playing with somebody who either isn't ready to play or was never going to be ready to play at this level. So I'm really excited to see what DJ Durkin and Charles Kelly, guys who I got a lot of respect for, what they're able to do with some depth. But I thought last year that Auburn's defense, their biggest problem wasn't just stopping the run consistently, especially late in games. It was that when they would stop the run and they would get you into third down and passing, they rarely got to the quarterback. And if they happened to get to the quarterback, they could rarely get him down. So again, adding more pass rushers, right? Watching Falk grow up a little bit this year. That to me is where I think you're going to see Auburn make the biggest jump, is being able to not only get two quarterbacks on third and passing and second and passing, but getting quarterbacks on the ground. And that is what creates turnovers. That is what creates rush throws. That is what creates, third and 19s, while now they're just having to give up in the drive. I'm going to throw a little lollipop screen, or, we're just going to try and get better field position so we can punt. That's where I think Auburn's going to be this year. And it's the personnel, man. It will always be the personnel.
Yeah, man, because I talked to people, and then when we got Mike Bobo and, he did his thing at Auburn for that 1 year, people were like, man, Mike Bobo is terrible. He can't coach. It's amazing, though, that he only lost one game at Georgia with the right
Yeah,
coach.
yeah, with those
Amazing.
players, huh?
That's
Yeah, the
amazing.
plays work a lot better. There's a saying, and it's so true. Football is a game that is won by players and is watched and talked about by coaches. And that's the truest thing ever. Like, it is about the personnel. And you can run different systems. You can run the triple option. You can be pro style. You can be a RPO team. You can be air raid. If you got the cats, it's gonna work because it's just physics, man. Some guys are beat at birth.
Absolutely, man. So let's stay right there, man. Oh, we're cooking now. Let's stay right there. Hugh Freeze.
Yeah.
Man, Hugh Freeze say he changed his terminology last year because he thought his coaching tree people knew a lot about his style of coaching and his terminology. He's going back. So I want to ask, what's the difference? In it seems like he's going back, but you just said people know your terminology. So
yeah. Well,
what?
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, man. That's my question. It's like if you said people coming in, you giving it over because people know your terminology and know your stuff, and you share too much. Okay, how are you going back to it now? What's the
Yeah?
Could you explain that to me?
Here's what I'll say. I think one thing that's going to help is now you got the headphone in the helmet, so you can actually just tell them without having to signal some of it. Obviously, you're going to have to find a way to get the information to the wide receivers, right? Like the quarterback can tell the offensive line and the run unless you're going to huddle. The funniest thing is our advances in technology may take us back in time to where people huddle because now that's why they do it in the NFL, because he can tell everybody to play, which, it's going to be interesting to see how that affects up-tempo teams. You're still going to have to signal. But, as far as the terminology thing and what you're doing schematically, we always say if you're not evolving, you're dissolving. A great example of that is Gus Malzahn, right?
Yes.
Gus Malzahn kind of stopped evolving there for a couple years, and that ultimately cost him at Auburn. So you always want to be, you have your base terms. And look, everybody calls a lot of the stuff the same things, right? There's some nuance in it. And then some guys invent terms or, invent combinations and things like that. I'm not as much worried about the terminology as I am about last year, him giving up the play calling. And that's the one that got you there.
Yes.
Just think about this in any other profession. Let's go back to a food example. Let's say you're a chef. And the reason that your restaurant is rising is because you make great fried chicken and you make it and you end up getting this job as a head chef at a big place. But now all of a sudden,
Jake,
not only do you not make the
Jake, why I gotta be fried chicken? But go ahead, Jake. Go ahead.
Well, I love fried chicken. It's my favorite food. Well, chicken wings, but that's really fried chicken when you look at it. I'm hungry. It's about 5 o'clock here. No, look, I eat more fried chicken than anybody, so that it ain't gonna hurt my feelings.
No, I'm just joking, Jake. Go ahead, man.
What I'm saying is, like, not only do you not make the fried chicken anymore, they're making it with a different recipe. So, like, and you were a head coach that called plays at Liberty, at Ole Miss. So you've done it before. So I always thought if that was ever me and I was a defensive play caller, it'd be really hard for me to relinquish that because that's what got me there. So I'm happy that he was going back, and he's only been a year removed from calling plays. So it's not like you're going to forget, because a lot of play calling, it's feel. It is, anybody can sit there and read a play, right? Or listen, hey, let's go something out of 11 personnel right here. Because a lot of times the head coach or the OC, it's a team effort in play calling. Hey, because coaches look at different spots during the game. Nobody's watching the ball and seeing what happens. Only the players do that on the sidelines. So now that he's calling it again and only being 1 year removed, he's dancing with the one that brought him. He's betting on himself. And when it comes to Hugh Freeze, I know two things. The man can call plays and the man can develop quarterbacks. And that's what Auburn needs. And now that you have better personnel around, right? You have threats on the outside. You have threats on the inside. You've got threats in the backfield. And the quarterback can run. And the offensive line is better. It is a perfect coalescence. So I don't expect to see any drop off. I think he's going to – I know he's super excited. The biggest question becomes, if you're going to call the plays, you're still the head coach for everybody, for the offense and the defense. And that's what I talked with Jeff Lebby about at SEC Media Days, who's going to call the plays. He's the head coach of Mississippi State. It said, how do you divvy up your time in practice to make sure you're spending time with the defense? Because it can fracture a team. It can turn into – the head coach just cares about the offense, and the defensive coordinator is the defensive head coach. And you don't want that to happen. So he's done it before. He knows how to do it, and I think he understands that it's a fine line to walk.
Okay. Hey man, and for all y'all who just got offended about the fried chicken and stuff like that, us joking, man, we just joking, man. We just having fun.
Look,
We brothers.
like I said, I eat more fried chicken than anybody.
We Auburn brothers, man.
All the way back to Buffalo Connection. That's an old throwback for all you Auburn fans.
Y'all chill out. Can we have some fun, man? Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
Another question. Do you think Auburn ends up in the top 5? Can we make it back to the top 5? I know Auburn people fell off, jumping off bridges and going crazy when we lost the linebacker and lost the offensive lineman. All right.
You talking about top 5 in the country? You talking
about recruiting? Yeah, recruiting. Top 5 in recruiting. We need to get back to both, but recruiting first.
Yes.
Can we make it back?
Yes, I'm going to go ahead and tell you something. I think by the end of Big Cat weekend, and I know it sounds like forever away, but recruiting never stops and you got to start early. I think by the end of Big Cat weekend, Auburn could have the number 1 2026 class in the country. Just remember I told you that. I know it's a while ways away, but you want to get in there early. But as far as this year, yes. And here's the reason. What is the last ingredient to the recipe for success for Auburn that these coaches have been telling everybody about? And you saw what they did last year, coming off a year where they struggled. You were able to get Perry Thompson. You were able to get Cam Coleman. You were able to get DeMarcus Riddick. For the love of God, you were able to get good offensive and defensive linemen that other big-time places wanted, which that's the quickest way to bridge the gap. But the only thing that's missing, we got the facilities. Brand new, state-of-the-art facility. We got the resources. We got NIL money, way more than what people think. We're all aligned, fans, coaches, administration, donors, right? It's on-field results. And I think Auburn, at worst, right now, the way I see it, unless there's some devastating injury, and God forbid, I hope that doesn't happen in fall camp, I think 8-4, right, is very, very, very gettable. I think 9-3 is very doable. If that happens, Auburn will start to absolutely ascend even more, because now all that, what they say in politics, promises made, promises kept. Right. I told you when I sat in that living room when you were a junior in high school that give me 2 years and you're going to see the success on the field. Not that we're going to be where we need to be, but you're going to see progress building towards when you're coming out. And you go 8-4, or you go 9-3, and you show that, hey, Auburn is getting back to where they belong, where they feel like they rightfully should be. That's when all of a sudden the floodgates start opening, because you've got tangible results on the field, and there's positivity, and people in the media are talking good stuff about Auburn, and you can go in there and be able to fight even more against the Georgias and the Bamas and the LSUs and all those guys. So that's the last ingredient, and I think they're going to get it. So, I mean, DC, yes. I think yes.
Last question, man. Well, last question before the last question. Do you think Hugh Freeze can change? He talked about changing his messaging at SEC Media Days, the messaging with people who are less talented than we are. So do you think he grasped that, and how do you do that? How do you change the messaging so we won't lose to New Mexico State? So he put it on himself that, okay, maybe it's the messaging, maybe it's what I'm telling these kids before these games, or preparing them for the games, that's causing us these big letdowns. How do you change the messaging?
Well, again, if you're not in the room when these messages are being delivered, it's hard for me to sit here and say, okay, maybe I would go about it a little bit differently than what he did. Well, what I think, and I've always thought this, and this is what I tried to import to my guys, was at the end of the day, you really are only playing one opponent, and that's yourself. So what made Nick Saban so great, and what makes Kirby Smart so great, you see Dan doing, you hear Dan talk about in Oregon, a lot of coaches do, is understanding that regardless if you're playing Georgia, or if you're playing New Mexico State, or Bishop Sycamore, or USC, we'll change the game plan to make it make sense schematically against what they do. You have to do that. But at the end of the day, it is about us realizing it is a game against ourselves. And once you do that, your opponent becomes faceless. And once that happens, you start being able to operate at the highest level of efficiency you can pretty much all of the time, because football is a game you play like you prepare. And if you prepare well on Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday and walk through on Friday, most likely you're going to play good on Saturday. And if you stop looking at it like, God, we got Bama this week, we better play better than we have the whole year. Or, oh, we got La Monroe this week, we can just play okay and probably beat the hell out of this team. Once you get past that, then you've really, I call it the age of enlightenment. When it finally breaks through to everybody that, oh my God, this game really is blocking and tackling. And it's really about, if I do my job on this play and we can change how we attack what they're doing, but I know my job, it doesn't matter who it's against. We are going to win. So yes, you need to digest the scouting report. Yes, you need to even know who the backups are at corner if you're a wide receiver, and kind of how they play and watch tape and understand who they are. But when you realize, man, it's really just Auburn versus Auburn, it's me versus myself each week, then the messaging becomes really easy. Well, guys, it's a Tuesday practice. We know we got on Tuesdays. We got Indy. We got inside drill. We got one-on-ones. We got team red zone. We got competition. And then we got conditioning. Let's go attack each one of these to make myself better, not because we're playing LSU this week, or not because we're playing Cal this week, but because this is what I need to do this week to get better at what I do. So to me, I know Coach Freeze knows that. Maybe he kind of got a little too specific. I don't know. I wasn't in the room, but I guarantee you he wants Auburn to look at it like they're playing a faceless opponent, and really the opponent's them.
Okay. So what's next for Crain Company, man? What's next?
Bro, we're just trying to just keep doing what we're doing, like, and keep getting better. You know, what I just said, realizing that, you know, not competing against ESPN. I'm not competing against, you know, CBS or any of that stuff. Like, we control what we can control, and we try and do the best and give the best analysis we possibly can, whether it's talking about the ACC or the SEC or the Big Ten or the AFC or the NFC, or hell, if it's KFC. There's another chicken reference for you.
There it is.
Like, it doesn't. I obviously got fried chicken on my mind. No, man, we're just gonna try and keep going and keep growing and keep our brand expanding as possible. Look, I want to be the best. You know, I didn't start, just like when I told you at the beginning. What's the first thing I did? I looked at who was the best at podcasting, and we still got a long way to go. But I think we've covered a lot of ground in a short amount of time, and so no, man, we're gonna keep doing it. If you hadn't checked us out, we go live each weekday, 2 to 3:30 p.m. Central. If you can't catch us live, it stays on demand. We do live call-ins. We have people calling about Auburn all the time. We have a live chat on YouTube and Daily Wire that's popping. What I would tell people is, regardless of, you know, what you think politically, like, I really don't care. Like, we just want to talk about sports. So if you're into that thing, or into that type thing, man, come hang out with us. It's a good time. I'll be the good-looking one in the middle. That's right.
Hey, man, the quick wit, where did you get it from, man?
I got it from my dad. Believe it or not, everybody thinks I got it. Dude, I'm telling you, DC, my father, and if you knew Kurt Crain, bro, he was the funniest. He used to say the funniest stuff that used to absolutely blow my mind. Some stuff I can share, some stuff I can't share. But no, I get it from him. And he was more quick-witted than I was, than I am. And I miss him every day. But, dude, hilarious. DC, hilarious. Like, he would start making fun of somebody.
Yeah.
Oh my God. He said one time, I'll never forget, he told one dude that he's so dumb, if he put his brain in a dog, it'd walk backwards. I'm like, dude, like, what? Like, what? How do you even think of that? Like, it just, I'm telling you, man, I got a lot of, I try and share stories every now and then.
That's funny. I was watching one of your shows, and you said that the Clemson fans were pushing Dabo off on a raft real slow.
Yeah, like the old Eskimos and Indians used to do. Like, the old people, they'd be like, all right, you're 80. Everybody's out on the shore with torches and singing, and they just push them off. Like Buddy, when he's trying to find his dad on Elf. They're just like, bye. You know, like, at some point, you better, speaking about evolving or dissolving.
That is hilarious.
Your ass going to dissolve real quick. You know, he said, you see what Dabo said the other day? I'm not anti-transfer portal. I'm just pro-young men.
Oh my God. Are you serious?
Like, dude, what? So basically you just said, yeah, you're anti-transfer portal. Like,
wow. Yeah.
I don't get it. Like, I really don't. Like, I kind of get it, but then I don't get it. I don't. It is what it is.
I don't, man. I would keep those words to myself, and I don't understand how you don't use the transfer portal, period, and then like brag about
Well,
it.
you know what it's like, and this would shock me
It's gonna be
at a
interesting to
place
see.
like Clemson, but I think it's like the guy who goes to the bar and then he goes up and talks to the girl and then she rejects him and then he's like, "No, I thought you were ugly anyway." Man, no, you didn't.
Yeah. That's what it is to get rejected in the portal, maybe.
For sure.
Yeah, because I mean, everybody Georgia's in the portal, man. Alabama,
You got to.
everybody's in the portal.
You got to have a little bit of it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hey guys, I appreciate you coming around the barn, man, telling your success story. Ladies and gentlemen, the Prince of Auburn football. Maybe I should have copyrighted that. The Prince of Auburn football.
Oh, you got it, please. I'll wear it.
The Auburn cheat code. That's the one right there. The Auburn cheat code. All right, man. I appreciate you coming by, Jake, man. Spending some time with us, man. I hope you come back, man. And
I'll be back,
man.
Hopefully I'll be back. Like, man, we went 9-3, DC. Oh my God, here we go. I told you, top 5 to the moon.
Yeah, that's what I was telling my Alabama fan. He was like, "Why y'all don't want championships?" I was just like, "Man, I just want 8-4, man. Just give me."
Yeah, but like it's a
man.
process. Like I don't like it's building up toward that. I would love for Auburn to go undefeated and win the national championship. I would also love to be 7 foot tall, but like that's not gonna happen. So
all right,
we'll
see y'all next time. Appreciate you, Jake, man. Appreciate you coming on, man.